Is the pound GBPUSD gearing up for another significant move? I'll have all the details in today's video and also the latest on the DXY. So looking at the pound, guys, GBPUSD, we talked about this over the weekend in the forecast video. And what I mentioned there was that this channel that you see that extends off of those late September highs back here, this is what we discussed several weeks ago before the market even came into this level here last week. So if you notice here, we have these lows off of these candles here. And at the time when I showed this level up here, the market hadn't come into this area just yet, but this was one area based on this level up here and based on the parallel levels here. This was a region up here above 1.25 that I was looking at. Now, I did not enter short here because I was waiting to see what we got in this area last week from this market and also the DXY into last week's close. Now, the market is still range bound. I want to say that first and foremost. So anything talking about, the next significant move for this market is a little bit premature in a sense, just because really, technically speaking, this market is still just very sideways. Okay, you can see here that we have this range that has built up between a 1.25 resistance and down here around 1.2380. So this has been a significant level that we've talked about here for the pound for several weeks, and you can see where the market is technically still holding above this. Although we did have a slight gap down, the market filled that gap and is now once again testing this level. Now, with that said though, okay, it does kind of look like the market could be in the process of breaking down here following last week's retest of 1.25. Now, I did enter short here today as shared with VIP members in real time. And by the way, if you do want to join us in there, be sure to check out the link in the description of this video for 85% off lifetime access. Or if you're on the website, click on that Join VIP link. So I share all my trades in there in real time, entry, stop loss, take profit, also VIP member videos every week. And we also just talk about the markets in real time throughout the week, Forex, commodities, crypto, and stocks. So anyway, guys, looking at the pound here, it does kind of look like the market wants to break lower. And the reason I say that is, first of all, we have momentum looking, pretty bearish, obviously, since September. Now, furthermore, if you look at the structure here, going back all the way back to early 2023, essentially, you have the market back here making these higher highs and higher lows, right? So this was an uptrend for the pound. You had these higher lows and you had these higher highs. Now, this broke down, though, following this move right here, because all of a sudden you've got the market taking out lows like this, okay? So this was your higher low back here, right, during this uptrend. The market took that out and is so far holding below that trend line through here that we've talked about. So you have that bearish momentum now that is built up. Just keep in mind, though, that something like this, when you start talking about price action going back several years, stuff like this can take time to play out. Okay, so timing is going to be critical. But you have that bearish momentum since late September back here. And furthermore, if you look at something like the hourly, okay, so going in the other end of the spectrum here, looking at higher time frames, then looking at lower time frames, you can see where this area down here, this is our support level for the pound. And this is what I mean by the market hasn't technically broken down yet, because you can see that it is bouncing here so far today. And that's important to understand, because you could still get the move back here toward these highs or even take these out before you get the next drop lower. But one thing to consider here for the pound is that looking at the hourly time frame, following the retest last week, okay, this retest up here of that descending channel resistance, you can see that the market came down here towards support. It bounced from here, made this high, came back down, bounced from support, made this high, and now it's bouncing from support again. So what you'll notice is that we have a series now of lower highs into support. Now, a lot of times when you get this is a sign of weakness for a market. And typically when you see this, you do get a break lower. Okay. But again, you've got to wait for that breakdown below 1.2380 to really confirm that the next leg lower for the pound could be setting up. Because right now, again, this market is just very range bound between 1.2380 and 1.25. Okay, so if we see the pound lose 1.2380 this week, if we get a daily close below this area, then it breaks this current range. And again, given the momentum we've seen here, that could open up some downside targets like 1.23, potentially 1.22. Now, one thing that I do want to talk about here in this video is the potential for another significant leg lower for this market if it does lose range lows. And the reason for that, I'm going to go to another chart here, still GBPUSD, looking at this on the weekly time frame, just a cleaned up version of this chart. And you can see that going back here to late 2022, there is this imbalance right back here. Now, if you guys have seen these videos in recent weeks and even months, you know that imbalances like this on the high time frames can often serve as magnets. In fact, we were looking at something similar on the DXY last year, going all the way back to October, that gave us that rally up toward 109 to 110. So areas like this can often serve as magnets the closer a market gets to it. And we've also talked about, again, this trend line that we saw the market break down from back here. Okay, so technically we had a breakdown, a significant breakdown of this trend line here for the pound. Okay, so it's holding below this. We have this bearish momentum. We've got this channel in place, and you've got this imbalance or FVG back here from October of 2022. So this could come into play. Now, the big wild card with something like this, though, is going to be the DXY. So not only is the pound range bound here as well, and it has some significant levels to get through to the downside to open up areas like 116, but you've also got the DXY breaking down recently from its September trend line. So we've talked about this as well, where you got the breakdown through here. We had the sweep of 108 lows, and so far the market is just range bound. So this is going to be the big wild card here, in my opinion, because so far, the market is having trouble getting above 109.50, right? And obviously, if the DXY can't break above these range highs and instead we get something like this, right, then the pound isn't going to retest that 116 area and fill that imbalance. And there's no guarantee that we do get a fill of this area around 116 from the pound. Okay, this is just one scenario that we could see play out if this bearish momentum stays intact. Okay, so the way that you get around these uncertainties or handle these uncertainties with markets is just play them level by level. That's really what it comes down to. So with the pound, like I said, if you're looking at this level here on the daily time frame, 1.2380, it's very clear here that this is the level that needs to fail on a daily closing basis. And if it does, and we see the pound trading down here on the daily, then this flips to resistance and you're looking at support at 123, 122, etc. Okay, so it's a level by level market. And so when you're looking at levels like 116, don't just think that, okay, we're here at this area and the pound has this region to retest down here, so this is guaranteed. Don't think that way, because there are no guarantees in the markets. Instead, this is just a level by level market. If the market loses these lows right here around 123.80, then we get the push lower down here towards some of those other key levels. Okay, so it's a level by level market, but I think longer term, there is that potential to see the pound move significantly lower down here toward 116. So when we look at this here, I mean, this could be potentially a 700 pip drop. And while that may seem a little bit crazy, you've got to understand that the market has already done this twice. So if you'll notice back here within this descending channel, right, and I'll get rid of this just to clean it up a little bit. But if you'll notice back here, this drop right here, and also this one, okay, both of these were significant moves lower here for the pound, to where a drop of 700 pips from here really wouldn't be crazy. In fact, it would be kind of in line with what we've seen so far. From this high up here down here to this low, you've got about 930 pips. And then from this high right here, which didn't quite test the top of this channel, but from this high up here down here to the low, you've got about 700 pips as well. So this could come into play, but again, it is going to be a level by level market. And technically the pound here, GBPUSD, is holding above that 123.80 support. All right, now one last note here about the DXY. I talked about this one in the weekly forecast and mentioned how this level here around 108.07 could be critical going into this week. And what you'll notice here is if we look at the weekly time frame, okay, even though this weekly candle is looking, kind of bearish here, you've got to understand too that this has been a key pivot here on the weekly time frame for the DXY. And what you'll notice back here is that we got the weekly close below. We had the weekly close back above. Okay, so technically this was a fake out. We had last week holding above here. So far this week is above 108.07 as well. So my point here is that even though this week's candle is, very early, it's only Monday, the point here is that so far the DXY is holding above this 108 area, this pivot through here on a weekly closing basis. So you have to respect that and also respect the fact that this market is still just range bound. Okay, so as long as the DXY holds above areas like this through here on a daily closing basis, I do like the idea of a move back here toward highs like this and potentially even this wake up here into 109.50. All right, so range bound until proven otherwise. The same thing goes for the pound. But I do think that this area around 108.07 is going to be the one to watch this week for the DXY. All right, guys, so bottom line here, I do think we have the potential for the pound to set up for the next significant drop lower, potentially all the way down toward 116 over the coming months. And keep in mind, guys, if this were to happen, it would potentially probably take months to play out. I doubt we get down there within a couple of weeks. So just keep that in mind as well. But really, like I mentioned, this is going to be a level by level market. So far, the pound is just range bound. So even though we have that bearish momentum, we have that imbalance from late 2022 around 116, so far the pound is range bound between 123.80 and 125. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell for notifications. Don't forget to join us in VIP. Claim your 85% off lifetime access. See the link in the description of this video, or if you're on the website, click on that join VIP link. I will see you on the inside. Trade well out there, and I will talk to you again tomorrow.